All right, we're going to discuss title blocks. So the first thing we're going to want to do is make sure up here in Vectorworks Tools, you're in Workspaces and Spotlight for this. Just make sure you're already in that workspace and there's a check mark next to that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go over here, and in the world of grabbing our tool sets that exist up here, we want to go right down here. You'll see this one. If you hover over it, it says Dims and Notes for dimensions and notes. We're going to click on that. And this icon right here, this rectangle with a small little rectangle in the corner, when you hover over it, it says Title Block Border Tool. We're going to select that tool. You see some things change, and you see some options up here. So these are ways to insert your title block. So this first thing is a single point insertion. This second one is a standard insertion mode, meaning it's 2 clicks. So you click once, and then it can rotate the title block freely, and on your second click it stops and drops the title block in whatever orientation that you have rotated it into. I don't really know why you would ever need to use that, but it's how it works. And then how you want, if you're in single page mode or multiple pages mode, if you had more than one title block per page. I don't think you need to worry about that either, but those are how those buttons work. If you look right here, title block border style, right here at the top, continuing across, if you drop down this menu where it says unstyled, you will see here under your Vectorworks libraries, you'll see title block border styles, that folder, and then there's a numerous files here for Vectorworks to reference with some title blocks that are already built. For our needs, we're going to kind of start here with this Spotlight Title Blocks USITT. That's the United States Institute for Theater Technology, and that's going to be closest to the standards that we're going to use, but we're going to learn to kind of augment this title block for our own uses and start with something rather than create a title block from scratch. So we're going to select that for the moment, and I'm just going to say USITT title block corner. That's selected. I'm going to double click this, and when I do, it goes away. On my next click, that title block will drop on whatever page I have. But for the purposes of looking at this right now, make sure, you may already be, but chances are probably not, if you go to the tool menu all the way at the top, go to File, Page Setup, and then in Printable Area, check the box that says Choose Size Unavailable in Printer Setup. And where it says one printer page, right now it thinks your printer is a standard like Office printer or something like that. Just go down here and select US Arch D in the drop-down menu. You want to make sure that it is sitting correctly, a width of 36 and a height of 24. That's good. If those numbers are incorrect or inverted, then go here to Printer Setup and make sure that your orientation, should be landscape. But let's see. Interesting. That did not have any bearing on that. It should. I don't know why it's not right now. Anyhow, your printable area, US Arch D, the width is 36 inches, the height is 24. You will click OK, and now you might have to zoom around a little bit, zoom out. There is your printable area, and when you hover your mouse over, you see the title block already wants to be there. All right, before we go on with dropping a title block in, let's look at a few things. Actually, we should drop a title block in. So I'm going to go ahead and click. Now you see this generic title block has dropped into the drawing. We can zoom in and see there's some of the information that we would typically see. You may refer to the examples on Canvas that are provided to see a more robust version of what a larger title block might look like. However, while we're here, I'm going to press the X key or go over here and select the selection tool and go over here and talk about some stuff in the object info box. And some things that we need to look at right here is the title block manager. When you click on the title block manager, this window pops up. It's the dialog box for the title block manager. The two main things that we're going to deal with mostly are going to be information that resides either in project data or sheet data. And in a real general sense, we should think about project data as information that doesn't change from drawing to drawing. So that could be the name of the theater, the name of the producing organization, things like that might be info that is in project data. And we can click here and see, the address of the venue, just like I said. And you can also click on Manage Project Data. And when this box pops up, you see design firm name and design firm address are italicized. That is because they are not currently in use. There's no check mark here, so it's not being displayed. Once you click that, those entries will be available in this dialog box. And it's important to note some of those things that are unused at the moment for something we will talk about shortly. When we look in sheet data, this is information that changes from sheet to sheet. And that could be the date that a drawing is revised. It could be the scale, could be specific to this particular drawing. There could be a variety of things that could be available that would change. That being said, thinking about those two areas with those categories is not always a hard and fast rule, as with all rules really in Vectorworks. There's always multiple ways of doing things. So we've looked at the data that's there. If we change things in here, we will see them start to populate in the title block. Such as if the sheet title here, if I selected this and said the sheet title was classroom example, and I click OK, the sheet title right here on my title block changes. All right, that's all in Title Block Manager. You might also see that above Title Block Manager is something called Title Block Border Settings. Title block border settings differs in that this is somewhere that you can make an update to just the sheet you are working on. So when we looked at Title Block Manager, we can make adjustments that change from sheet to sheet or change universally. But every once in a while, you might need to make an adjustment specifically to one sheet of a packet of information. And you would come to Title Block Border Settings to do that. That could be that you have multiple assistants working for you, and there's a portion on the drawing somewhere that says, drafted by and is initialed by one of your assistants, and the entire packet was drafted by one assistant, but that assistant has moved on to another project, and you have an assistant tagging in that is familiar with the show, but is going to go in and make a few adjustments and needs to go ahead and document that they were the one to make the adjustment. They would then enter their initials as drawn by for that particular page, and then they could make that change and make it only apply to that particular sheet or drawing by using title block border settings. Okay, also over here you will see you have, if we scroll down, you're going to see these buttons, project data and sheet data. These are merely shortcuts to the information that can be accessed by going to Title Block Manager. We click this Title Block Manager, it pulls us up. We're in sheet data right now. This is everything here. If I click cancel, scroll down in my object info and go click on sheet data, when I click this, the same dialog box is going to show up. Not quite, but the same information is there for you to enter. These are just shortcuts to the same information. You can enter it by clicking here. You can enter it by going to the Title Block Manager. It really is just options that exist to customize your workflow as an individual. All right, now that we have dropped this title block, the one thing we need to look at is how do we start building out a title block from something that already exists. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have this title box selected. And when I scroll up here to the top of our object info for this specific title block, right where it says style in the object info box, I'm going to click this drop down menu and I'm going to go down and say convert to unstyled. And when I do that, it's going to give me a few more options available in the object info palette that we haven't looked for because they don't exist yet, but I will show you them now. So when we convert to unstyled, now we can edit the title block layout, which we couldn't do previous. And there's also linked information. If we go in here to edit title block layout now, we can actually manipulate the individual title block. So linked information where it says classroom example, remember I entered that in the dialog box. We could go over here to the object info and scroll down and you will see data type assigned to that text right there. Data type is a link value. That means that text is linked to some dialog box where you have entered information and it's going to reference that to put that information there. So the parameter is what? Well, here we see sheet data dot sheet title. That means it's in the sheet data tab of the title block manager, and the individual piece of information is the sheet title. If I wanted to change this, I could change to any of these pieces of data. I can link whatever I want to whatever I want. This is where I would remind us earlier when I said, look at these couple of things in the manager for sheet data or project data that aren't being used, like the design firm and the design firm address. If there was information you wanted to include on your title block and you didn't care about having the design firm or the design firm address listed on your title block, then what you could easily do is create whatever label for the information you need. So say that there wasn't a space for the director. There clearly is, but I'm going to click on the director here, and you see that this is just text. And when I scroll down, the data type, not link. All right, not link. That means it's just text, and we want that to stay there. We do not want it to be linked because it is the label. But over here, where the person who created this title block has written directed by, you look over here, and when we scroll down in object info, you see data type is a linked value, and that parameter is from sheet data and the directed by blank. So when that information is entered, this will automatically change. So if you had a piece of information that you wanted to include, sometimes this can happen when Vectorworks does not include space for certain designers. The sound designer or hair and makeup designer are not always in the dialog box, or one of them is missing for sure. So sometimes I will use the design firm address or whatever, and I will just link the value and know that in the dialog box, I'm always going to enter that person's name there. But that's part of my specific workflow and how I solve that problem of representing all of the creatives on my paperwork. Also, you might see that this title block does not meet right in here to the corner like it should. And that's because this text here is just kind of resizing. And I believe if we knocked this text down slightly so that it fit, oh, I had the wrong thing selected. If we knock the size of this text down slightly so that it fit in there, we might be able to now see it tucks itself in the corner. So these things automatically resize themselves. So sometimes you can make a title block that works for different size pages. Lighting designers don't have as much luck because our title blocks are larger, because they include an instrument key and a label legend and notes and several other things, where scenery might only include scenic notes, and so there are not as much space going across. Meaning, if you take a title block meant for an Arch D page and you try to apply it to a smaller architecturally sized page, it might jump off of the page because it can't resize everything to fit. So sometimes lighting designers need to make multiple title blocks and label them for use with different size pages. However, when you get into this, let's select this and let's talk about editing this so you have enough information to know how to edit and build out your own title block. So I'm going to click on Edit Title Block Layout again, come back into this. You can resize any of this. You can grab this and pull up and now create yourself more room. All right, and if the next thing you want to do is take the project name and this line, we can select both of those things, and I'm just going to grab it over here by the end of the line and slide up, and I could do this. And then I could start to draw in the lines with the line tool. You can pay attention and use some examples of paperwork that might already exist, examples on Canvas, to what line weights should be. I don't think you need to concern yourself greatly with it because we haven't spoke of that yet and really talked about it in class and what all that means. We're just concentrating on now you have drawn an object or should have already completed your object project. And now we're going to take those drawing skills and augment a title block, and then we'll move forward with building on those skills. So in here, grab my selection tool. I can move any of this around. If I want to create a linked value, I could, but look at the examples on Canvas, especially the example from the textbook that I gave you, and it's listed as the drafting textbook from Dennis Dorn and Mark Shanda. That is a great guide, as it has specific measurements of how tall really those spaces where names get typed would be, and they're often like 3/4 of an inch. And I have not measured one of these title blocks specifically, but I would not be surprised if it is. So, well, that says 1 foot 6 inches because we're not in scale. Because we're in the title block layout. But as you're drawing the title block, you will be able to measure those things out or reference the heights that are in this because they are derived from a basic USITT title block, and reference what the measurements are and give yourself a little guiding line, and then draw your next line so you can space in your blanks and what information you need to create. So take a look at the title block examples, take a stab at augmenting this one and pushing information around and trying to link some values and draw out a more robust title block, and we will keep working from there.